One of the most feared skills for any rugby player. Tackling's got that ability to not just break you down mentally, but it can completely destroy you. Hopefully by the end of this video, we can eliminate all of those fears, whether it's you as a player, a coach, or just a friend. I've got 3 big things I'm going to go over in this video. It's not just all going to be talking head, and how they all come together to create a really good tackler. The pros are mostly all using the same tackle technique, yet there's still this massive discrepancy that exists between what we see on TV and what's getting taught at a grassroots level. You have to remember that tackling at the professional level has evolved from the mixed bag it once was, which consisted of regular tackles, spear tackles, clotheslines, bear hugs, and jersey slings. There never was this clarity over the ideal way to tackle. If you got the player to the ground and caused some damage in the process, it was happy days. There's still a lot of different techniques and dodgy techniques getting around. You see, people mostly teach what they were taught when they were younger. That's definitely not me, because I can't remember getting taught how to tackle properly, especially, between the ages of maybe 5 and 15. My dad was mostly my coach. I was kind of taught the same technique every year, and to be honest, it was horrendous and not very effective. Throughout my teenage years, it was definitely a lot of trial and error. Looking at videos on YouTube, seeing what techniques were taught and what people thought online, asking around friends what they learned at clinics when they went away on camps, and then having to pull coaches aside after training to say, hey, can you actually teach me how to tackle properly? Fortunately now, there's techniques widely recognized as the ideal way to tackle that are a lot safer and more effective. But it is kind of hard information to access for players and coaches, I would say. So hopefully this little guide can be helpful for everyone. Starting with technique. Firstly, a tackler needs to get in the right position. It doesn't matter if you're a front rower or a fullback. Everyone needs to get themselves in a position to make a tackle. The tackler must step into the attacker. Actually, I would say step through the attacker, because the power from tackling is mostly from the legs. You can't tackle with your whole body if you're reaching. Sure, you might get someone down every now and then, but it's a weak tackle and your shoulders will start hating you. The foot that steps in is the same shoulder that tackles. Now, there's an easy way to tell if you've stepped through the ball carrier. Is the lead foot planted between the attacker's legs, in essence breaking their center of gravity? Just to summarize how important this part is, if you don't step through someone, you're probably going to miss a tackle. And if you do step through someone, it's almost impossible to miss. On my last rugby tips video, I had a few people asking how do I avoid getting stepped, which is a super valid question. It's important the tackler locks their eyes in on the ball carrier's core. Doesn't matter what the legs are doing, someone's stomach and hips don't move too quickly and make for a much easier target. Now I just want to mention, this entire tackling technique draws a lot of inspirations from Jamie Joseph, just with my own little additions and answering a few questions. His technique has been adopted by the elite players right around the world. Step through, same leg, same shoulder, and the secret sauce is the wrap. Really important, the wrap's not a cuddle and actually has a purpose. Pulling in that far knee instantly depowers the ball carrier. If you are a little skeptical, get someone to try this technique on you and feel just how much control you lose as the attacker. I'd say it's almost a scary feeling at first because you have zero control of your own body. And that's what we really want, the tackler to have full control and the ball carrier to have none.
If I lift one leg, you still got like a little bit of power with you, but if I come in, grab these, you got no power when I squeeze both legs off, but if I squeeze both legs together, pulling you forward.
So, to talk through the entire process, the tackler needs to focus on the core of the attacker. Step through the player by getting that lead leg between the ball carrier's legs. The same side of the body you step in with is the same shoulder that makes contact, and then wrap by pulling the attacker's outside leg in towards your body. Bit of sports science for you, you're actually pulling them in one direction and pushing them in the other. Kind of like how you trip somebody. Now, in my opinion, that is the technique for world-class chop tackling. The most effective, efficient way to tackle, no matter how old you are, no matter how big the other guy is, that is the way to do it. Highly recommended these days that you don't take that risk of going up high. With the way the game is, any accidental head contact and you could be sent off the field. But we know for whatever reason this does happen. And if for whatever reason you or your team ends up in this situation in a game, nothing really changes except the focus of the wrap. When you make contact around the chest or sternum area, you kind of have 2 options. You can either drop to the ground and go for a low wrap, or you can sort of wrap underneath the opposition player's scapulas. Get under them and pull them in tight towards you. From this position, you should be able to turn and roll an attacker or wait for a teammate to come and chop them. Again, not recommended, but if you do go high, that's probably the most effective way to get them to the ground. I wouldn't worry too much about teaching players to strip the ball these days. Once you're in that position, it's pretty easy to hold an opposition player up and try and force a collapse maul turnover. Now, that was a lot of information, but to be honest, it's all pretty worthless if you can't practice it. And it's the biggest mistake I see time and time again, especially at a junior level. I've seen under 8s learning to tackle for the first time in a 10 by 10 meter grid, which almost looks like a run it straight challenge. It really is a tough watch. Tackling's not an easy skill for adults to master, let alone children. If you want to become a better tackler or make better tacklers, it's got to be practiced in the slowest, most controlled environment possible. I remember getting told so many times growing up that if you don't go in 100% into the tackle, even at training, you're going to get hurt. And still, every time you do, someone gets hurt because your technique sucks and it's not safe for you or the other person. I know it's just my opinion, but all defensive training drills should be aiming to build confidence for the defenders, small, confined spaces, especially narrow. We have this tendency in rugby to make every drill, every activity super wide. It's honestly the worst thing for people learning how to tackle. It just turns into the big boys running sideways, building up lots of momentum, and everyone getting too scared to tackle them. Because the environment is teaching them to run sideways, and it's actually not encouraging defenders to make tackles. So my personal opinion on the best drills I've ever seen: 3-on-1 tackle drill, 3 defenders, 1 ball carrier. They work together in this drill to learn the tackle technique. They talk, they're confident, they give each other feedback, and the tackle's not over till the ball carrier's on the ground. Secondly, it's the good old 1-on-1 tackling with mats or on a mattress. There is some channel, I can't remember what it's called, but I love watching their clips on Instagram or YouTube. Really good. If you're a coach out there, highly recommend watching them. I'll try and throw a link up if I can find it. It's definitely become a pretty popular way to learn how to tackle, especially with mats so easy to access these days. The obvious progression of this drill is the speed of the ball carrier. If you don't have mats available, a sandpit's also a pretty good option. And thirdly, the old faithful tram tracks. 5 meters of width, 2 teams, the best tackle environments for rugby players. Besides being a stack of fun, most tackles are 1 to 2 meters away and is a real confidence builder. And the final thing, probably the most important thing for anyone, is attitude. You gotta want to tackle and learn to love it. If you don't have that fire in your belly, you need to find it. Too often players turn up to training hoping that there's no contact. You really need to change that mindset for yourself, the people around you, maybe your team. Coaches can support their players by conceptualizing a love for the dark arts of tackling and running training sessions where everyone leaves feeling like bloody good tacklers. After all, it's a everyone's as fast as the slowest man situation. All it takes is one player not wanting to tackle, hiding in the defensive line to crumble a team's defense. Okay, that was definitely me. It was difficult to just think differently, so maybe try some sports psychology techniques. One technique you might want to use is trigger words or cue words, like saying up to get up off the line, or bullet. I know some players like to vision themselves as a bullet when they're going in to make contact. Another one you might want to try is positive self-talk, telling yourself, I can tackle anyone, I'm an incredible tackler, reminding yourself to tackle with confidence. All these little things really make a big difference to your attitude. Or my personal favorite, what probably worked best for me, performance segmenting. That's just focusing on one small part of the tackle at a time. So for me, it was step through, knowing that if I got that lead leg nice and close, I'd be every chance of making a tackle. Now, the 3 things I've spoken about to improve your tackling are extremely connected or intertwined with each other. A better attitude to tackling will no doubt improve your practice, and better practice will no doubt improve your attitude, and a better technique will give you a better attitude, and so on. Hope you've learned something from this video. Drop any comments or questions you have below. I have another video where I give 7 rugby tips, so if you think that might be an interesting one, go and check it out.